This is my 10 essentials for every run. Not everybody will use these, but for me, they mean longer runs especially are more fun, I encounter less problems, and I perform better. I'm going to go through them against a backdrop of me and my dog Nixon running a race tomorrow, 20 miles over the Welsh mountains. And as an idea of how seriously we are taking that, I found an unopened packet of biscuits in one of Jenna's drawers back here this morning, and I have left one of them uneaten because willpower. And also, Nixon got a haircut yesterday, so he is now super aerodynamic. We aren't mucking about. The race has now been run, so let's start at the beginning. We're off 20 miles over the Welsh Black Mountains and straight into a ridiculous hill, which later on makes for a really good sprint finish, but right now just means a very slow first kilometre that took almost 11 minutes. But actually this isn't really the beginning. Let's back up, because my essential number one is preparation. When the stakes are not high, I'm notorious for leaving things until the very last minute. If you've ever raced against me on Zwift, you'll know I have a habit of joining a race with less than a minute left to go before it kicks off. But on something like this, I want to be properly prepared. This is a long way over serious terrain, and I've got Nixon to think about too. So when the bell rings, I do not want to be thinking, have I got this, have I done that? I need to know that I'm just ready and can then concentrate on running or walking up that hill. So that means the day before, I've got all my kit ready and checked it twice. This race has some mandatory items because of where we're running, so things like first aid kit, foil blanket, some waterproofs. So all of that, along with all the things I want to bring, is sorted out well in advance, as is stuff like my breakfast made it the night before, along with everything I was going to eat on the day, during the race and after. I had to set off around 6 AM, so I want to be able to get out of bed, eat, grab my gear and not be mucking about looking for stuff. Even little things. Has the car got petrol for the 2-hour drive? Anything I can get out of the way 24 hours before, I do. Right, first hill done, down the other side. And in case you're wondering, this event run by Limitless Trails. I've done 3 or 4 of their runs now and they've all been amazing. Organisation through to the scenery is always just spot on. 2-hour drive for me to get there, I would go twice that far. If you're remotely close to Wales and like running a bit, go and check them out. Right, essential number 2, a running vest. An expensive running vest is something you think is a waste of money until you've had one and then you try a cheap one, which applies to many other things in life. Women don't seem to make the same mistake that a lot of guys do, which is using a regular backpack type setup. I don't know if it's a manly kind of carrying your army gear type thing, but trust me, a vest is the way to go. I have 2. They are both Solomon ADVs. I have the 12 and the 5 litre. I gave how good these things were no thought whatsoever until I did a long endurance race last year, and when I registered they were selling kit of their own. And one of the things they had was a race vest, had a little logo on it, looked quite cool. So I bought it and I raced in that. 15k in, not even a quarter of the way around, and it was rubbing me the wrong way everywhere. Moving around uncomfortably, slipping to one side on the shoulders, went in the bin as soon as I got home. So this is the ADV 12 that I used. It's basically over the 5, it's got an extra zipper pocket on the front and it's got a proper zipper section in the back for stuffing more things in. But they both have pockets all over them. The 5 is perfect for anything from a jog around the block when I want to just throw my phone into it, right the way through to doing a half marathon trail run up to a couple of hours. Because on this race I need to be carrying waterproofs and first aid kit and stuff and extra food. I use the 12. Actually the 12 is so light, if I can only have one, I'd have the 12 be fine for everything. And I'd never go back to a regular backpack. The ability to have stuff all around your body rather than all in one place on your back is brilliant. It means you can get the stuff more easily that you need, the weight distribution is more even. You literally can't tell you're wearing it, which is the sign of a good vest. And if you're thinking, oh, mandatory items, first aid kit, that all sounds very scary and not for me. No, it's incredibly cool to have to pack bits and pieces that you might need to look after yourself while doing something challenging. Doesn't mean it's super hard or dangerous. It just means it's an awesome difference to being sat at your desk Monday to Friday, where the most risky thing you might do is put your coffee down a little bit too close to your keyboard. In reality, if you do need to go into your first aid kit on that race, it's probably because you got scratched by a thorn or something. But even then, once you have patched yourself up and you're back on and moving again, the sense of having overcome something and carried on moving forward at whatever speed you're choosing is brilliant. And when you're back in the office on Monday and tell people what you did, that you ran over some mountains for hours, often nobody else about, I guarantee you somebody will say, oh, but what if, blah, blah, blah. And there is no better sign that you are cracking on with life than somebody else saying, what if? Talking of things rubbing the wrong way, the next essential, it's not exciting, it's not sexy, at least not in this context. Essential number 3, lubricant. The weather on Saturday was great, but that means you get hot and sweaty, and that is not good, at least not in this context. And from talking to other bigger runners, it does seem the larger you are, the more prone you are to having one part of your body aggravate another part of your body. If you are a smaller person now thinking, hey, that's not true, I need lube everywhere, nice, stick it in the comments. For me, one of the worst areas is actually under my arms. They rub against the side of my back when I'm moving. If I don't put some lubricant under here, I literally end up bleeding inside my arms, and then I'm running along looking like an idiot. And of course, obviously, things can rub in more X-rated areas too. You're at your best when the going gets rough. So not only do I apply some lubricant before I set off, if I'm running for longer than about an hour, hour and a half, or it's warm, I will take some with me. I use these little silicone travelling pots that I stole from my wife to put it in, and my lubricant of choice is udderly, bizarrely designed for cows' udders, hence the name. Okay, essential number 4, my GoPro. I always have my GoPro with me, unless it's a very fast 5K or something where I just know it's not going to be needed. And forget YouTube, it's not about making a video, I might want to grab a photo, or something might just occur. I've had way too many times in the past where I've been out and something's happened, and I haven't had my camera with me. And wished I did. And if you're thinking, oh, just use your phone, I don't like using my phone. This goes back to my motorcycling days, I think, when people would say to me, just use your phone for GPS. My phone is my safety net if I need to call somebody, and that is pretty much it. I don't want to be grabbing a stupidly expensive pocket computer with sweaty hands while running off-road to take a snap. GoPro, I can use without having to look at it. I just point and shoot. If I drop it or fall over, it's not going to get broken. Doesn't matter if it rains on or gets covered in mud. And unlike a shiny phone, if I'm jogging somewhere with plenty of people around, I'm not likely to get mugged for it by some scallywag with no idea how bad a day he's about to have. I use the Hero Black 10 with the Media mod, which just means I get slightly better audio from the onboard mic when I'm out and about, and can also plug a lapel mic in as well if I need to. And I also carry my old GoPro 9 as well, and something like this where a backup is handy. And also the 9 is used for doing stupid things with that might see the camera get wrecked or lost. Basically, one day this will not make it home from an event because I'll have, I don't know, put it on a fence post and then gone 100 yards away and then turned and run the jog back past it for some footage, and a cow eats it or something. And I carry spare SD cards and batteries. Batteries especially, the 10 chews through them. I had to swap halfway around on this race to make sure I had juice for the whole run. I just carry those in a little sandwich bag to keep them clean and dry. And people are always asking how I carry the selfie stick and the camera with me when I'm out and about. This information might be a bit niche, but let me demonstrate. Okay, vest on. The ADV has these elastic adjusters for closing the chest section up, which is really convenient, and I use that. So, camera goes in the little underarm pocket. You then got the other end flapping about, annoying. So I just loop the spare part of elastic around it and then hook it off. And that's it, simple as that. Can't go anywhere, perfect. Not an inconvenience, but easy to grab when I want it, which of course is great for all sorts of things in life. We're not doing that joke again. Essential number 5 is my Garmin Fenix 7X. This was my first decent length race since I upgraded from the 6X to the 7X. Now if you see my videos on the 7, you'll know my conclusion up until now was pretty much that this is a very good watch and slightly better in a few ways than the 6, but not really worth the cost of upgrading. So did racing with the 7X convince me it was a huge upgrade? No. Everything I absolutely loved about the Fenix before, I still love. The ability to download maps and to easily see where I'm running, especially in relation to hills, what's coming up, where am I in relation to the top of those hills, how far left to climb, what's my ETA for the event, how long have I been running for, where's my heart rate, all that. No change. Still one of my favourite bits of kit. But the only real difference having the 7 over the 6 was that when I needed to check on the map, I was on the right path. Occasionally, I could move around on the map with my touch screen in a way that on the 6 I wouldn't have bothered to try and do, because to do it with the buttons and move around the map was just a faff. It was almost easier to run on a bit and see if the watch pinged up an off-course warning instead. But across hours of running, I did that maybe 3 times, and not once was it really critical. I just did it because I could. So it's handy, but it's still not worth the price of the upgrade. My previous videos still stand. And the stamina feature that I was interested in having a look at, that showed that during the course of the run, my ability to keep running at that pace slowly declined as I got tired. Information I did nothing with because it told me nothing I didn't already know and feel anyway. So really essential item number 5 is not a 7X, it's simply a good watch, and I would say that right now a Garmin Fenix 6 It's probably the perfect balance of everything you're ever going to need and a bargain price, because mugs like me have all bought the 7. Essential item number 6, just a quick little one, Gaiters. Not the type that eats your pet if you live in Florida.
Adrenaline kicked in, and I just went right in the water after the gator and gunner.
The type that goes on your shoe and stops little things from getting in it that shouldn't. There's all sorts of different designs. Mine are from Ultra, where my trainers come from, so they conveniently Velcro to the back of the shoe and then hook onto a little clip on the front. I like that design more than others I've used that have a fastening that goes right underneath the shoe, which does work on any shoe, but I've always found they snag on things or come loose or even come off. I've raced in horrific conditions with these things, knee deep in mud, and they've always been solid. And yeah, they just stop little stones and sticks and things getting inside your shoe. That's really it. But that is a real nuisance if it happens. They also stop your laces from coming undone, because laces typically come undone when they're left to flap about and work themselves loose, especially if they're wet and heavy. And if you are running in crazy muddy conditions where mud is coming above your ankle line, then a gaiter will make it very hard to lose a shoe. I have been in lots of races where somebody in front of me has put their foot in deep mud, pulled it out, and left their shoe behind. Very unlikely with gaiters on. You're far more likely to finish the event with the clothing on that you started with. Okay, essential number 7 is a big one, nutrition. Now, I'm not an expert runner. I'm not even a particularly good runner, not over these distances, but I am able to lug my rather heavy body that has a slightly higher than average calorie need over a reasonably long distance in a not too bad time. So with that in mind, here's what I do. First of all, I break it down into pre-race, during race and post-race, because all 3 times are just as important. And I should say, I'm talking here about races that have a fairly significant calorie demand in the first place. If I'm doing a 5k or a 10k, I'm having a coffee, maybe half a bagel if I can be bothered, and I then go and run. In those situations, my body, after a good night's sleep and eating properly the day before, can sustain itself just fine for up to an hour easily without needing much else. So, pre-race here starts the day before. No crazy carb loading stuff. This race is just a few hours. It's not some 100-mile ultra marathon, but I do eat a decent amount of food and nothing after 8 p.m. so that when I wake up in the morning, I feel well fed and got a good night's sleep because I wasn't digesting food all the way through it. I then have a bagel with some peanut butter to give me some carbs and some fats. I have a green shake with some MCT powder that gives me a bunch of vitamins and minerals, stops me feeling hungry because the bagel is not a large meal at all. I then take a couple of electrolytes. I'm using Love Life supplements here, and links to all the stuff is in the description and on my website as well. In fact, anything that I'm talking about here, I'll link up for you to go and check out yourselves if you want to. And pre-race, that is it. I know some people will have a lot more to eat, but I don't feel comfortable running especially, cycling's not too bad, but running with a lot of food in me. And then there's nutrition during the run. Limitless Trails put on an excellent food station. There was actually 2 on this course, plenty of things to eat there. And I prepare in such a way that I do not have to touch any of it. I want to be 100% self-sufficient and able to use the things that I know work perfectly for me. If you're someone that can rock up at a checkpoint table and eat anything on it, crack on. I can't. I need to have consistent and steady intake of things I know don't aggravate me. So that is Mountain Fuel gels, which I love because you don't need to glug them down with water. They're like a jelly. And I take one of those every 45 minutes or so. And then a Mountain Fuel flapjack, they at the halfway point. And I should point out, if I look exhausted walking up this hill at the halfway point, that's because it was a hill at halfway and I was walking up it while exhausted. Now that all equates to about 800, maybe 900 calories on a race that probably burnt just over 3,000. And over that distance, that's fine. I can finish a bit hungry, no problem. On something like a 50k, that is taking me a bit longer, I'll try and have half the calories burned consumed during the run. Getting hungry with 20 or 30k still to go is not ideal. But here I felt good, never really felt hungry for the last half hour. I never felt like I had low blood sugar, no dizziness. I felt strong the whole time. I'm also drinking water, obviously, but with electrolyte tablets in it from Bix. 2 tablets over the whole race. So with my water bottles on my vest, the left is water and on the right is electrolyte. That's how I remember it. When I need to refill that one at the second aid station, I just drop another Bix tablet in it, fizzes away, sorts out all my electrolyte needs. And unlike when I ran this race last time, I had no cramping problems. Not very scientific, but I put that down to a constant, steady intake of electrolytes throughout the whole race. And then lastly, post-race nutrition, super important for me especially, and I'll talk about all that at the end. The dog. The dog itself is not essential item number 8, but the things the dog needs are. And I've included this because people are often asking me, what do you take for the dog? And it is super straightforward. He has a thing called Musher's Wax applied to his feet before we set off. It's designed for huskies, so it's certainly good enough for Nixon. Keeps his pads nice and soft and protected. Actually, somebody in another video that I did on dog running said that because I didn't fit Nixon with little booties when taking him out on a long run, that I was a disgusting, mean dog owner. I had a chat with Nixon about that, and he said that A, have you ever seen a wolf in booties, and B, a off nutcase. But he was in a very bad mood. Right, he then has a running harness, a proper running harness. It's lightweight, doesn't interfere with his movement, and it has a fixing point for the leash set nicely back down his body so it doesn't throw his balance off by pulling him around at his shoulders. And then an elasticated lead that goes to my waist harness. That is a setup that I would describe as the perfect, safe way to run with your dog. Interestingly, parkrun describe it as the most risky thing in sport behind CrossFit. But let's save the parkrun and dogs discussion for another video. And that is all Nixon needs in terms of kit. I'm also carrying some food for him, of course, but he doesn't need much. A couple of biscuits every now and again, that's about it. He doesn't want to be running with a full stomach any more than I do. And obviously the biggest issue with a dog is heat. Dogs struggle to shed heat the way we do, certainly. They don't sweat. The way they get rid of all their excess heat is pretty much through panting. So we keep his coat really short because he'll cook otherwise. He got a grade 1.5 all over the day before. It does make him look a bit odd, but he's reasonably okay with it. A little bit self-conscious maybe. I'd certainly avoid taking him to a Chris Rock stand-up, but he is cool on runs and that is the priority. And I expose him to water every time we see it. So on this course it was brilliant because we were crossing little streams, going past little puddles every 5 minutes or so. And I'll make sure that if we spot any, I'll pull him across so he can see them, and if he needs to get a drink, he has the opportunity to do so. And when there's sufficient water, I just dunk him right in, cools him off, he's good to go again. But of course, the most important thing to do with your dog is to watch them. They are typically very bad at letting you know when they are struggling, especially if they love to run, as Nixon does. He would literally run until he was dead if he was allowed to. So I have to watch where he is. Is he positioning himself out in front of me? Probably means he's good. If he's to the side of me, probably feels the same as I do. If he's behind me, is he now struggling? Just know your dog and watch your dog. And essential item number 9, and the one that I'm asked about almost as many times as I'm asked about nutrition and footwear, is music. What music do I like to listen to when I run? Here's the answer: none. The best thing to listen to when you are running is nothing. I'm a huge believer in that. I used to run with music all the time, became completely dependent upon it. And then when I started entering just local fun 10Ks, which would quite rightly not let you wear earphones because you're then a hazard to everybody else around you, I'd struggle. So I'd stop training with music cold turkey, and like many things that we think we're dependent on, quickly realised that I was just fine without it. But there is a time and a place for distraction. On a long run, being able to switch on something and take my mind off the task in hand is sometimes useful. So I use these Aftershok's bone conducting earphones. These are the latest version, which I didn't think would actually be much of an upgrade over the previous ones that I really liked, but they are. They are much better sound quality than the old ones. They sound pretty much like regular earphones, in fact. And they leave your ears completely free to hear marshals, to hear other runners, traffic. If you're in the gym, hear people talking to you. I wear nothing else when I'm exercising. And on some runs, you're not even allowed to wear regular earphones anyway. Okay, before essential item number 10, the finish. I was once asked, do you not feel a bit silly sprinting for the finish line when you're just coming in middle of the pack somewhere? No, and here's why. Firstly, how annoyed would I be if I came in just below average because I'm not bothered to pick up a couple of places with 200 metres to go? Very annoyed, so don't let it happen. And secondly, it's a finish line. If I see one, I'm sprinting.
Come on! Whoa! Whoa! Hey! Oh!
Right, the last one, essential item number 10, recovery, and a process I go through after a race, which also includes that last part of nutrition, the post-race food. And stating the obvious, this is a process that I go through bearing in mind a couple of specifics to me. I'm a larger than normal runner, so my body takes quite a pounding. You got the touch! And I have a tendency, even when not particularly hungry, to devour anything in sight for no apparent reason. So I need to be really careful when I'm really hungry. So anything like this race, where I know my body's going to be feeling the impact in the days following, I do everything I can to lessen that impact. That means as soon as I finish, feed the dog, and then stick on my recovery compression boots to flush the lactic acid out of my legs. Massively reduces the chance of any cramping in the hours following the race, which is something that I used to suffer from badly. I then take a Bix recovery tablet and get some hydration going. And then I eat. I give as much thought to what I eat after a race as I do during it. The temptation is to go to the food table and just wolf down lots of calories, normally sugary ones. For me, that would just cause cravings that would last the rest of the day and probably beyond. So instead, I always take a little packed lunch in a little cool box, and in there I have exactly the right amount of calories and nutrition, so I know that once I've consumed it all, I don't need anything else. There's no stopping on the way home for a snack, no grabbing something extra, because I know it's not required, because I worked out what was required and I ate it. In this case, that was a Huel shake with some extra protein in there as well. Gave me a big protein hit, some vitamins, minerals in that too, and also in the Bix tablet. I also then had another Mountain Fuel flapjack just to bring the carbs back up slightly. That gave me maybe 800, 900, maybe at most 1,000 calories, and it was ample. I did not eat again until I was home over 2 hours later, showered and changed, and then had a small regular meal. And I did some really light stretching, which I then repeated again the following day, along with going for an easy swim. Within 2 days, feeling good, back in the gym as normal. Oh, and at night I take a magnesium supplement which helps to ensure that I don't get any cramping during the night. Again, something that I used to suffer from, don't anymore. Okay, as for my performance on the actual day, I was 38th out of 84, so top half just. But given all my training lately has been geared towards high rocks, that was good enough for me. In fact, it actually felt quite strange because I do feel pretty fast and strong right now from all the training, but I don't have the endurance fitness that I've had in the past for those hours and hours and hours of running. So I felt really tired. In fact, there were times I felt exhausted, but I also felt like if I came across a big boulder, I'd better push it out of the way. There was no boulders, so I never got to test it, but that's how it felt. And ultimately, it's not an event that I'm particularly physically suited for, which is why I love doing them in the first place. There is something quite cool about doing something that you know you're pretty good at, and then seeing the results from that. But in a way, I actually find coming second or third or fourth in something that I'm good at quite frustrating. You know, why was I second? Why didn't I win it? Or why was I fourth? Why was I not on the podium? But doing something like this race, I know I gave it absolutely everything and I got into the top half. And that's it, just a huge sense of satisfaction. I don't get bogged down in, oh, what could I have done differently to make this tiny difference at the end? I just enjoyed it for what it was. And also worth adding, my time, 4.5 hours, there are plenty of people taking 6, 7 or 8 hours to complete it. So if you're thinking that something like that is not for you because you're not a great runner, you're not going to be that fast, you're not going to be in the top half, it's not for great runners, it's for runners. In fact, I was talking to somebody on the day and we were saying it's not a running race as such, it's more just a kind of covering ground race. You walk up the hills, you jog where you can, you pat yourself on the back when you're finished. Okay, hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. Big shout out to Limitless Trails. I'll link to them down below. And if you're one of the people that was there on the day and said hi and gave great positive feedback about what I do here, thank you. I never get at all bored of feeling a tiny bit famous, so that is hugely appreciated. Okay, as always, questions, stick them down below in the comments. Again, most of the gear I talk about is on my website and I'll link it down below too, so go check that out. And I'll see you on the next one.
3-month-old Gunner managed to escape with only a small wound.